Hey, everybody. Give me just a second. There I am. Sorry, I like to get the tablet going so I can see chat so much better. Okay. So tonight we're going to tie some rigs, and I'm going to have a video coming out on this particular rig fairly soon. I think it's scheduled for, I don't know, Monday, probably. It's called the Mortician's Rig. And it's named that, as I understand it, because the gentleman that came up with it is on YouTube and calls himself the Fishing Mortician because he's a mortician. So, let me raise the desk up some so that I'm kind of forced to put stuff out in front where you guys can see it. And just a little bit here. I want to make sure that we can see everything well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start off. Have a nice little ruler right here on taped to my desk. And let's see. It's 36, so we'll take it up to about 40, 42 inches, somewhere in there. That's where we're going to start things off. So we're going to start at the top of the rig. Hey, Beverly, thanks for coming in. It's late on a Friday night and had nothing else to do. Well, actually, I have lots of things I could be doing, but this seemed like more fun. Hey, 351 Cleveland. I know, Ernest. I actually has a race in the morning. Poor soul's going to be running 53 or 56K for God only knows what reason. It was supposed to be a trail run, and it got moved to being a paved trail run because the trails are underwater. So I'm going to start off by tying a tri-lane knot. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And get this tied on. Kiss the knot because, it's more fun that way. Sure we get everything tightened down good. And where's my puller? There's my puller. Found my puller. And make sure I set that really good because the tighter you set your knot without breaking it, of course, the closer you can put the tag end. When you're the closer you can cut it. Now with the trailing knot, it's not as important that it gets cut short because it kind of goes off to the side, goes a little forward or a little towards the back, depending on which way the knot's facing. But anyway, there we go. Hey, Uncle Bonar, good to see you. Good to see you. So just down from the swivel, I don't know, give it a few inches. I am going to tie a figure 8 knot, and to tie a figure 8 knot, you just make a loop, and you take the bottom end of that loop, or either end of the loop. You go around once, and then come back through the bottom. So you're doing 1.5 twists around that loop. And when that's done, when you come together, you have your figure 8 knot. So we tie that one up. Name an animal for an edit. Well, for one, I don't really care for edits, so there's that. And then name an animal, a platypus. Congratulations. So we've got the one knot that we tied. Now we're going to tie another one, not too far away from it. I'm going to go, I don't know. I'm targeting about 1 inch away, but who knows? I never said I was good at this. So we'll slap that in there. The reason I'm using the figure 8 knot as opposed to just a standard overhand knot is I believe it to be a little bit stronger. Boy, I am not an inch away by any stretch. More like, let's check it on the 3.5 inches. Well, okay, it did what it did, right? So there we have, again, swivel, 2 knots. We're going to go down a decent way. And we're going to create another loop, like so. And then we'll go around one full time. Easier said than done. Another way you can do this knot is you create the loop and you twist it one. Let's see. 1.5 times. And then you take your tag in and you go through the knot or through the loop. And then that also gives you the figure 8 knot. So whichever way makes you happy, we'll do it that way. Around 1.5. And run the tag in through. And get that tightened down. That's much closer to what I was looking for the first time, but it is what it is. Thanks for joining, everybody. Please do hit that thumbs up if you don't mind. And then down at the bottom, we're just going to make a surgeon's loop knot. And what that is you create a loop, and then you go over itself, and you create basically 2 overhand knots with the loop portion. Get that good and snug. Then we'll snap off the tag end. So this is a rig that's going to be good for fishing straight down or fishing on the bottom where you have really a sand or a mud bottom and you're not having to deal with rocks and such. And what your loop here's for is you run that through the eye of your sinker. Yes, this is a pyramid sinker, which would be more for surf fishing, but it's what's sitting right here next to me. And you put the sinker through that loop, and there you are. There is your cow hitch knot. Okay. So from bottom to top, we have the sinker, the surgeon's loop. We have 2 figure 8 knots right there. Go up some more, and we got 2 figure 8 knots. They're a little further apart than I would have liked, but that's where they're at. And then we have our swivel. So yeah, it's a fairly long leader. Now, that was with 40-pound line. So the beauty of this is, so we use a stronger main leader and a weaker snood. That's S-N-U-U-U-D-E, snood. And these are going to be your droppers that come off. Okay, so we're going to make this fairly short. And I'll measure it now that I've cut it, because who knows? Come here, sunshine. So this says it's about a little over 12 inches. I've got some 4-aught circle hooks. We'll open those up. So I say. And we'll pour them out on the table. Okay. So in these, you do your favorite snell knot. What is a land fish? Well, a land fish is a fish that you've landed. You bring it in and you do that kind of thing. There are actually walking catfish in some parts of the globe that get next to no water during parts of the season. They literally use their fins to walk from one puddle to the next. So you put your tag in through the front of the eye, or front of the hook, and we're going to wrap this 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 is enough. If you want to wrap it 20, you can wrap it 20. I don't really care. And I'm going to use the egg loop knot because I like the egg loop knot, because it does not allow the no-knot snell to come undone. So to do that, we run the standing end through the back of the eye, and we hold it down against the shank of the hook with the tag end. So once we do that, we're going to wrap another 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we kind of keep all that tight somewhere in our hand like so. What will this lure catch? It will catch literally anything. And these are basically they're live bait rigs or cut bait rigs. It can work for catfish in freshwater. They can, I mean, anything will bite cut bait pretty much. So that gives you your egg loop knot. The egg loop knot is called that because if you push the standing end through, you get a little loop. And your salmon fishermen and such will put, or trout fishermen put salmon eggs in there. And that's how they hold it. Of course, they're going to actually run more than 6 times around, so they're going to come down pretty far. So they can get the bait further down. How do you keep the line from getting tangled? Well, Kansas Owens. It's not tangled. And when you cast it, you shouldn't really get tangles. I don't know a better way to answer that. So we can cut off our tagline really short on these because, again, unlike the no-knot snell, the standing end is not going to just let itself out. So that is our snelled circle hook. Now up on the other end, we're going to just go ahead and create, I'm going to do a triple surgeon's loop, which you double the line over. Yeah, make a loop like so, and then you run this end under like 3 overhand knots. You run it through the 3 different times, just like you would with an overhead knot, but you go through 2 more times for fun. And that gives you pretty good knot strength. Pull that through, and there you go. So the size of this loop is not overly important. Okay, it can be bigger or smaller, and I'll show you why it really doesn't matter after I cut off the tag end. So we'll put 2 of these snoods on the Mortician's rig, but I'll put this one on just to show you real quick. So you take it, you lay the snood over the main leader, and then you put the hook through that hole, through the loop. So as long as your loop's big enough for your hook to fit through there, you're good. And we pull that through, we pull the knot off of there, and it goes around your line. Just kind of snug it up a little bit, and that gives you a cow hitch. Green hawk. No, it does not. I'm not sure which part you're talking about coming loose. The egg loop knot keeps it, unlike the no-knot snell, does not come back loose. The no-knot snell usually doesn't come back loose by itself, really. It'll loosen up, but it doesn't like unwind itself. And so you've got your cow hitch on here, and it's between those 2 figure-8 knots that we did earlier. So it can slide up and down and that kind of stuff. So as it sits in the water, this is tied off to your rod, and this is going to sit out there with your bait. Okay, doesn't necessarily sit straight out or anything like that, but it does come off of the main leader. Okay, so what it can do is it can, go around and around and around and around, and you don't need to swivel for that because it's just going around your main leader. And we'll make another snood real quick. It's my 40 pound, which I don't want to use. I want to use my 20 pound for the snoods. And again, we'll cut this down 7 or 8 inches. Green hawk, yes, this is going to be mostly for this particular rig is for catfish. You can use these in saltwater, which is actually where I think they originated, for like pompano and things like that, which a pompano rig can catch anything in saltwater. I mean, anything that's going to eat live or cut bait will work on these. But with a 4-aught hook, yes, I'm looking for catfish. If I were using pompano rig, I'd be looking at anywhere between a size 1 and a size 2-aught circle hook. You can, of course, go bigger and smaller depending on your species. And, of course, your main line and your snood line strength would vary as well. So do another egg loop knot. So 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we just kind of hold this piece down. And we'll put the standing end through the eye, like so. And you just put about 1 inch or 2 in there. And then you take standing end that you just put through that eye, and you run it parallel to the hook shank. So you've got that, and you've got the sorry, let me get all my little duckies in a row here. There. There's my no not Snell. Run this back through the eye. This is the standing end. We're going to hold that back against the shank of the hook with the tag end. Get my finger out of there. And then we're going to go around another 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And unfortunately, I pulled on my snoot end, or my standing end when I did that. Do this one more time. Focus on goals, not on holes. Well, dead shot player, I am sure that means something that's not misogynistic and frankly mentally inferior. If you're trying to show your intelligence here, you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, failed miserably. So let's not do that anymore, okay? If you want to troll, go troll somewhere else. I'm sure there's some little child that'll be happy to hear it from you. So anyway, we go back to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We got our 6 turns around there. And put our standing in. Do the hook from the rear. And we hold these 2 here. And we wrap 1, 2. Try not to we don't want to overlap here. 3 and 4. Kind of hold pressure on that as we pull it through. And again, there is our egg loop knot. Fold our line over so that we create a loop. And then we just kind of knot this up together, and we're going to do this again. We'll put that doubled end through the loop 3 times to create what I'll call a triple surgeon's loop. 2 times is a surgeon's loop, so I always call it the double surgeons versus the triple surgeons just because that's a way to differentiate. So we've got that done. The end of it, there it is. That tied up there. Pull this tight. Pull that tight. And we can snip off the tag end. Now you can make these leaders a little bit longer. I'll show you what we're trying to avoid. So again, we wrap it around and we put the hook through the loop we created. And then we get that on there. Just snug it up, give you a cow's hitch loop there. And the thing that you're wanting to avoid here is you don't want these 2 hooks to be able to get tied up like this. Put a small bobber near the hook. Yes, that's going to be a Santee Cooper rig. And actually have a rig tying series coming up. The Santee Cooper rig should be posted in the next couple of days. I schedule them out a couple of days in advance. So I've got it. So as you're moving as you're moving from place to place and you reel this up, you can hook these together and that makes the leader shorter, but you don't want it doing this in the water. So you keep it like so. See, here's the top end with the swivel, your 2 snoods, and then your sinker on the bottom. Now again, you don't want to use these over rocks or in heavy structure because what happens is you're going to lose the rig when you get hung up. When you break off, it's going to break at one of these figure 8 knots. That's going to be the weak point. And depending on which figure 8 knot, you may end up losing the entire rig minus the swivel. So just keep that in mind. And if you're using a lighter main line, like So this is 40 pound. These knots are going to break around 30, 32 pounds for these figure eight loops or figure eight knots. So if you're using like 20 or 30 pound line, you'll actually break the front of the swivel and you'll lose the entire rig. So that's the thing about rigs. There's a time and a place for everything. This would be great for fishing straight down off of a boat. Not really going to be a good dragging system because of the fact that you're going to get hung up more often than not. And that is our first Mortician's rig. And I'm just tying up a few of these so I have them next time I go fishing, because I just learned about this one. It's been around for years, but I have never seen anyone in the catfish community use one. So, again, as far as using it for saltwater, I think it's going to be awesome. Let's go down about 30. So it gives about 40, 42 inches of main line, or not main line, main leader. So we tie the top to the swivel. And I'm going to use a trilene knot here because it's got good strength. How many subs do I have? Danielle, I've got 2,900, I think. I'm sorry, 1,900. No. I had 1,900 before I went to Pensacola. I'm at 2,300, somewhere in there. And at 29, almost 2,950 watch hours. So I'm almost to partial monetization. So just create the trilene knot here. And guys, we can talk about anything. Fishing related is probably better, but we can talk about anything. No politics, no religion, no racism. Past that, we're pretty good. Behave like an adult, I'll treat you like an adult. That's all you can ask for. That's all I can ask for. But yeah, Danielle, I'm at the cusp of getting partially monetized, which I believe is going to allow me to get super chats and members. Of course, I appreciate everybody that watches me at all, and just hitting that like button is showing support, and I appreciate it. Let YouTube know that maybe I'm not the biggest idiot you've ever met. I might be the biggest idiot you've ever met. I don't know. But YouTube doesn't need to know, right? And then just create a couple of figure eight knots here. And again, these are what the snood runs through. And there will be a video coming up on how to do this. My name is Mike. Hi, Reka. I fish around Memphis, Tennessee. I also go down to the Gulf 2 or 3 times a year and fish down there in saltwater. And gosh, I love fishing in saltwater. It's just, it's beautiful down there. I can't say anything more than that. And that figure eight knot went sideways. No, there it is. There's those 2 figure eight knots. And then I'll create that triple surgeon's loop down here at the bottom. I've got a lot of extra leader to play with, so I can make this fairly big. And this loop, of course, determines how close your rig is going to sit, how close your baits are going to sit to the bottom. If you keep this, keep your weight on the bottom. Of course, you can reel it up some if you're fishing over the side of a boat, but there you go. So this is a snoodless Mortician's rig. And one of the things, one of the greatest hacks, I hate the word hacks, you need to find a way to manage your rigs, right? If you're going to pre-tie your rigs, and it's so much easier to pre-tie them, that way when you're out on the water and you need to change rigs, you change them quickly. Just like if you were changing a lure, right? But when you're using these type of rigs, you get several knots involved, and it adds extra time to the process. So these are 4 mil, 3.5 or 3 by 5 inch bags. I get them off of Amazon. Don't get the 2 mil or even the 3 mil. They just aren't good enough, in my opinion. The 4 mils, you can put hooks in them, and they can poke through, but they're not going to easily poke through. Whereas with the 2 mil, if you're just going to, there's not much point in there. So you put one rig in here, whatever type of rig you have. I mark it with the pound and the type of rig it is. And then when you want to take it out, you pop it out, and there you go. Yes, it can knot up a little bit, but not excessively where you can't get it out. And it's a lot cheaper than using something like rig wraps, which are an interesting invention, but they take a lot of space. Some people will use like little pencil binder bags and put them in a binder. You can do that. But these, I just take these and then I put these into a larger Ziploc bag, in bunches, so I can keep them all together by style or weight or hook size, etc. So I'll pop this one down. We'll try this one at 36 inches as a starting point. You don't have to measure them. Everything's kind of eyeballed. Uncle Don, it is. It's a very interesting rig. I'm always looking for something new, right? Or something different, or something, I should say, something better. And I like this because in the situations where you want the sinker at the end of the line, this gives you the droppers without the dropper loop knot. And the dropper loop knot, in my experience, is not very strong. To the point that when I tested the strength of them, I was like, no, and took all of mine apart, took all the jewelry off of them, as they say, and threw the mono away because the dropper loop knot just is not very strong. So one of the other nice things about this, again, you have one swivel. That's your only piece of jewelry on this. You don't need sinker slides. You don't need any of that. The other beauty of a rig like this is your sinker is typically the heaviest part of the rig. So when your sinker is up here and your bait is further down the rig, it does this flip-flop nonsense in the air, and you lose a lot of casting distance. So this is good for casting distance. That is one of the main functions of this rig. Again, you don't want to use this in heavy structure or heavy cover, because when you lose part of the rig, you're typically going to lose the entire rig. And again, I think that the figure 8 knot is stronger is the right word, but really not the right word. I think it does not break as easily in an inline configuration over just a single overhand knot, but the single overhand knot is the what a lot of people use. So again, I'm blessed to be able to have something to test knot strength with. So I use it to my advantage. I try to get the science into things right. Then I have to find the fish. That's a whole other ball of wax. And why we're fishing with balls of wax, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway. And Uncle Don, it is good to see you. My friend, I have not seen you in a lot of chats lately. I don't know if you've been busy or if you've been having health issues, but it is certainly good to see you. Hello, Me News World. I am a fishing channel and I am just hanging out doing some rig tying because I am still awake. Figured we'd come in here, go live, try to get some watch hours, try to get some people chatting, see what we can talk about that is, you know, family friendly-ish, and do something while I'm doing this. Hey, Ezra, I appreciate the support. I know this can be a little boring, but hey, it's something you got to do at some point, right? If you're going to go fishing, you're going to need rigs at some point. And I like these better than the store-bought rigs. One, it's a whole lot cheaper. Me News World, I am in the Memphis, Tennessee area in the United States. There's my rig. So the bottom loop, again, that is so you can create a cow hitch with a sinker. And then you get the 2 sets of figure 8 knots and then a tri-lead knot at the top of it. Yeah, normally on Friday nights I'm out dancing with my fiance, but she has a ultra marathon tomorrow that she's going to be running with nobody chasing her. She's just going to run it because it sounded like fun. She pays money to do that. I do not understand. From India, well, welcome in, welcome in. Previous company I worked for had a lot of people that worked offshore. I'm going to rephrase that. I was the only person in my group that was from the U.S. The company I was in sold the division I was in, and the company that bought us, they did all of their, they used offshore talent because they're a lot cheaper. Hey, Alex, my name is Mike. I'm going to bet your name's Alex. I'm a genius. I'm so bright, my mama calls me son. How's that? Yeah. Okay, I got dad jokes for days. So we're just tying rigs for fishing. These particular rigs are going to be for catfishing. If I were doing surf fishing, I would actually probably use the same general line strength. I'd probably go down to 30 pound. I just don't have any with me at the moment. Otherwise, I would be using 30 pound instead of 40 pound. But this is going to be for fishing like park lakes and such. So I shouldn't run into any blue cats unless somebody decided they wanted to stock it themselves. And it'll just be channel cats, and channel cats around here. You know, if you get an 8-pounder, you've got a big one. Up north in the U.S., they can get, 30 plus pounds. They don't tend to do that in the South. And one thing that we can't see it. I built a line strength, knot strength, whatever testing board. And it uses a linear actuator to pull against a gauge that shows how much pull is going against it. So from using that, I've learned a lot. Honestly, it's one of the best fishing purchases I've ever made. I can test the strength of lines. I can test the strength of knots because the knot weakens the line. There are very few knots that are as strong as the line once it's tied. The egg loop knot that I showed earlier and also the no knot snell are 2 knots that are pretty close to 100% strength. And by 100% strength, I don't mean if it's marked 20-pound line that it breaks at 20 pounds. I'm saying but the line by itself usually runs to about 27, 28, 29 pounds, and those knots usually run 26 plus. So I'm not going by the rated line strength, I'm going by the actual line strength. Because, if you had 20-pound mono and it breaks below 20 pounds, you're going to not be a happy camper. So they always rate the line lower than the actual breaking strength for, a lot of reasons. One, if it sits on the shelf for a little while and gets exposed to UV light, that's going to weaken it some. There's nothing worse. Well, there are truly so many more things worse than, buying a spool of mono and it not having the advertised strength. So again, there's a pair of figure eight knots. And to do that, you double over your line and you go 1, 2, 3. So that's a twist and a half. And you bring your tag end through there. Oh, not through there. That was not the knot. That was not the part I wanted to come through. 2, 3. And then as you pull this up, it becomes a figure eight knot. And that was actually more than an 8, but that's okay. There. Now there's a good figure eight. And I'm going to try to work this closer to the other knot. Because our snood goes in between those two knots. As you can see, one of them is larger than the other because I apparently twisted it more than 1.5 times. But anyway, then at the bottom we just create a double or triple surgeon's loop. And that's what our sinker is going to go on. Well, look at there. My chat has frozen, but that's okay. I can see on the other side now. So if you're sitting there going, hey, you haven't read anything. Winter, weather, and health. Yes, sir. I can understand that, Don. Winter weather, yeah, definitely, it sidelines me from fishing, that's for sure. And I hope your health is doing better, my man. Always a pleasure to see you around. Ezra, I hope she does fabulous as well. She does. So it is a competitive race, and they are competing, but they're really competing more against themselves. There are those people that are going to, for the purpose of winning. But just finishing is a huge accomplishment, and she's going to try to beat her PR. We all have PBs, our personal bests. Fish, runners have PRs, their personal record. And she is going in some nasty conditions. For those not from the U.S., the middle of the U.S. has been going through the storm of a lifetime. And I don't want to make too much fun of that because everything is over sensationalized. There was no horrific damage that directly touched me. There are people who did have horrific damage that touched. There are people who have died from this storm. Basically, it's just a ton of rain and wind. 7 inches of snow last night. Lord, Don. I think Ashley told me we got 3 inches of rain today. Expecting another 1.5 inches tomorrow. And before that, we've gotten worse. We've been under flash flood warnings, flood advisories, all that kind of stuff. Fortunately, Memphis, we tend to not get nailed by these storms. They tend to go around Memphis for the most part. Doesn't mean we don't get storms, but where other people are having tornadoes, we typically don't get them. Don't know why exactly, but yeah. So I showed you the rig, and I'll do one more here real quick. And then I'll show you the snoods again for the people who weren't here when I started this. And yes, I'm using the word snood, which is about as European of a word as I know. I love the names that a bad swivel there. It's okay. I mean, I'm not sure it's going to really not function very well, but I don't want that piece of sharp wire sticking out. So we'll throw that one in the trash can and be done with it. So I'm just tying a trilene knot. I don't know that I've ever tied a trilene knot prior to doing my knot strength testing, and now it's one of my go-to. It is my go-to knot pretty much for tying on terminal tackle, swivels and such. Now, if I'm using a circle hook, I'm going to use a Snell knot, but my fingers aren't working today. Try the other hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go through both of those loops because we did go through the eye twice, which is how that second loop got created. And just kind of help that down. And kind of pull it down. Kiss on it a little bit because, well, why not? And cinch that knot down good and tight. I did find out from my knot strength testing that I do not pull my knots down tight enough. I thought I did. I thought I was hulking them pretty good. I was not. There's my figure 8. Create my second figure 8. And again, I want these kind of, about 1 inch to 2 inches apart. And then I'll go down further. And we'll start from the other end. And we want a decent space between the bottom of the top section and the start of the bottom section. That's going to be how far our knots are away, our snoods are away from each other as they come off of the main line. Or the main leader, I should say. So try to work that up a little bit. And there we go. And tie. Double surface knot there. Now you can put a coast snap on the bottom instead of this loop, if that's what you want to do. So again, probably shouldn't be having a hook there. Go swivel. We go down to the first set of figure 8 knots. We've got a space. Go down to the bottom 2, and then this is going to be, that's going to put the bottom snood basically on the bottom. I should have had these up further on the leader so that I would have space from the sinker that's going to go here and the snood that's going to go there, because that's only 3 inches or so. But, not everything's perfect, especially me. So I'll cut off, I don't know, this much line. Measured out for giggles. Right, this one's going to be, I always underestimate this. It's going to be a little over, right around 16 inches. Doesn't matter if it's too long, we can cut some of that off. So we're going to I'll show you real quick the no knot snell. So you go through the front of the hook, and go through the eye. This is your tag end. You're going to hold that down and you're going to wrap at least 6 times. So there's 6. And then we're going to come through the back of the hook. So what we've done there is we never created a knot. So they call it the no knot snell or the knotless knot or whatever. With thicker mono, what can happen is the memory of the line can kind of have it spring back out like this, which is why you need a fairly long, not this necessarily this long, tag end. So if it does try to come undone, it doesn't come undone. But in this case, we're going to continue this knot by coming back out of there, and we're going to hold this end. So the end that we've been wrapping, I'm just going to put it between our fingers here. We're going to take the standing end. That's the part that's going to go up to the snood. That comes up the top, or comes out from the back to the front, and then sticks out a couple inches up here. So we take the back part of that standing end, and we hold it against the shank of the hook, just like we've been doing with the tag end. And then we wrap 4 more times. 2, 3, and 4. Now that is going to create some twist here. So as we pull up, we kind of want to keep everything tight down here at the bottom. And if we get any twist, it's going to happen more with heavy mono, that you have those twists that you have to get out of there, but you want to work them out. Because if you don't work them out, then yeah. So that is the egg loop knot. So what we did was the standing end, see, it can still come out, and that's actually designed to be there, but it's not going to unravel itself. And this knot is a very strong knot. So figure out how long we want this thing to be roughly. And we'll put it about right here is where we kind of about the length. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll the line over like this, and we're going to create that triple surgeon's loop, which is we create a loop here, and we take the end around this double line loop 3 times. There's a second, if I can see the line. There it is. Come on. It did not go through both of them. Pull it back out. So we create a loop with this doubled over line. 1, 2, and 3 little overhand knots. And we pull that. Now this does not have to be terribly large, this loop. The only thing that needs to be able to pass through it is the hook. So we get that pulled tight, get the hook out of my finger there. And then we can cut the tag end down to about 1/4 inch. Like so. So we're back to the Mortician's rig leader. And those 2 knots, those 2 figure 8s that we put close to each other, what we're going to do is we're going to put that loop there in front of it, so that the loop is in front of the line from me, and then behind it we're going to come through with that hook. We're going to go through that loop. And as we go through the loop, we're going to pull that loop tight between those 2 figure 8 knots, like so. And get the hook out of my finger again. So this gives you that cow's hitch we're talking about, and we just kind of snug it up. Okay, so this can still move up and down a little bit between those 2 figure 8 knots, and it can also spin around. Yay! So the beauty of this, not only everything I showed you, so where the only piece of jewelry that we used was this one swivel, is you can actually push out that cow's hitch knot, or the cow hitch knot. And you could change this leader. So if you wanted to go with a bigger hook, for instance, or a smaller hook, you can pull this out because again, it's just kind of folded over on itself. Also, if you get a fish and because your main line is the main part of the leader is stronger than these snoods, 40 pound versus 20 pound, in theory, a fish is going to break the snood before it breaks the main leader. So if that happens, if he breaks off or bends the hook straight, or you feel that you got some roughness here, you just snip this off. Then you can pull off the ends of it again with it, or push it through just like I did there, either way, and put on another one, and you're set. Hey, Skipjack Cindy, good to see you, good to see you, good to see you, good to see you. We're tying the Mortician's rig. It's named after a guy who calls himself the Fishing Mortician because, well, he's a mortician that fishes. I know, right? Wouldn't know. I mean, that's one of those moments where you go, ooh, cool. So it's an alternative to a double dropper rig, but not something that you want to use in cover or structure, rocks and such, because it is one of those that's going to have the weight at the very bottom. I know, Cindy, should be close to 29 to 50 as soon as they decide that they're going to, do all their stuff and add everything up. I am trying so hard. I can't wait to get to that 3,000. And as you know, it's not really about the money. It's milestone. Because, I don't think I'm going to have people that are coming in giving me billions of dollars. I mean, it'd be nice, but and it'd be nice to have memberships and stuff. I think I'm probably going to end up just giving away a bunch of memberships if I can. I think they allow me to give away. I don't know. How many do they allow the content creator to give away a day or something? I just think that green names are sexy. So I just had my egg loop knot. And with the egg loop knot, because like I said, it doesn't come loose it doesn't have a tendency to come loose like the No Knot Snell does. You can cut that tag hanger really short. 10 a month, huh? That's 10 more than I have now, isn't it? And then we just use that triple surgeon's loop here to create the other end of the snood. Using big words like snood. Our UK brethren, they have good fun words. So that should be nice and tight. Everything seems to be there. So give her a snip. Whee! We go down to the other two figure 8 knots. And we just wrap the line around there and put the hook through that loop on its own little snood. And then we make sure it's between those two figure 8 knots. Get the tag in, settle in there. And we create our little cow hitch. Whoops. I need to move it up. Didn't have it between my figure 8 knots. But now we do. Just kind of pull it tight, and it kind of stays in place. Well, Cindy, I don't know how the weather is in your neck of the woods, but around here it ain't that great. I was wanting to go fishing tomorrow while Ashley was running because she's actually running at a park. And I was going to take the kayak out, and it's looking like, 15 to 35 mile an hour winds. So, well, I think the kayak's not going to be going out after all. And I was going to do bank fishing, but it looks like it's going to be raining most of the day. But yeah, I know the going to sleep thing. We normally go out dancing, but because she has everything going on tomorrow, she's got to get up early. I didn't want to keep her out late. And we're cheap. It was a $10 cover per person a night. Normally there's not a cover. And she's like, yeah, I'm not spending $10 to be there for an hour or two. So, which is nice because it's usually my money. Anywho, so again, Cindy, I think you've seen me do this, but I love these little 4mm 3 by 5-inch bags. You put one rig per, and then you use a bigger Ziploc bag and put all of these similar rigs in the same little Ziploc bag, and then you can get it like a gallon size, and you can put all of those in there. And so anytime you need a rig, you pull out the quart size, and then you pull out one from there, and you just pull it out of this little bag, and you don't throw it on the bank where you're fishing. That makes you a bad person. I'm not saying that to Cindy specifically. I'm saying that everybody. Cindy does not leave trash behind. She is a good person. Although, while we're talking about leaving trash behind, I'm about to make an enemy or 12 here. I so wish that the fishing community would stop with what I call the landfill challenges. And no, that's not where you pick up trash that other people leave behind and you compete in that area. I'm talking about going and buying something stupid to fish with as something stupid to fish with because you created this challenge for yourself. One such thing is going out and buying a Barbie rod so you can fish with a Barbie rod. And then what do you do when your challenge is over? Throw it in landfill. Maybe if you're nice, you give it to a kid who outgrows it and throws it in landfill very quickly. The lures from Temu that look like male genitalia. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm getting to be an old tree hugger. I'm really not. But I don't understand those things where you go out and you blow money on something that you literally have no desire to use, and you're just doing it for some challenge. I'll get off my soapbox on that one. I do have some how to tie rig videos coming out. I think the first one may have gone out today, or it's going to be tomorrow. Well, it'll go later today. Then Sunday and Monday, I've got those 3 days covered in videos. I try to put out 2 a day at most, because otherwise people will be going, oh, I got to unsubscribe. I can't put up with this nonsense. So there's that. And folks, if you like fishing, there are a ton of good fishing channels. I mostly catfish and do crappie, bluegill, that kind of stuff. Not really a big bass fisherman. Bass are going to be a byproduct, a bycatch of anything I fish for. And then when I do saltwater, my saltwater videos do really well. I don't know what I do special in those that I don't do in the other ones. It's not the number of fish I catch, that's for sure. But maybe it's just the gorgeous scenery. I don't know. So 2 people in here. Both of them are probably me. I did get 8 thumbs up. That's more than I deserve. Let's see. So some of the rigs that I'm coming that I've got videos coming out for: the 3-way rig, the double hook rig, Kentucky rig, Carolina rig, the Santee Cooper rig, the Morticians rig, maybe all of them. I also have a playlist on knot strength videos. I have a playlist on how to tie knots. I have all kinds of playlists. My parents are only first cousin. Well, Anthony, I mean, if you're from Arkansas, that's kind of to be expected. Figure out what day each person gets to wear the tooth in the family, and you're fine, right? Although I'm sure you posted that because you wanted to be funny, and was it? I mean, let me read back to you. Arthur Morgan says, my parents are only first cousin. Was that funny? Oh, I mean, my only hope is you were trying to be funny. Otherwise, you probably walk with a limp and have an IQ in single digits. In which case, congratulations on typing out those words. If you're trying to troll me, I mean, I don't mind getting trolled, but could you put in a little bit of effort? Just a little bit, not a lot. Like the length of your man part. Just a little bit. Yeah. Okay. A little bit. If you want to hear your name out loud, all you have to do is just say anything decent, not racist, not political, not sexist, not stupid, not religious. I already said that. Religion, politics, racism, all can go to hell. And I will actually say your name. I mean, if you had said, "Hey, how you doing, man?" I'd go, "Hey, Arthur Morgan, how are you doing, man? I appreciate you coming in here. Thanks for coming in. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. See, look at that. Just double tap that screen. It's fun. Everybody loves to do it. Matter of fact, I may have heard on the news, or I may have made this up, that double tapping the screen in live streams actually makes your male part larger. Unless you're a female, then it does not make your male part larger, because that'd be kind of weird. Just saying. But you haven't said anything else, Arthur, so I don't know if you left and went to go change your gender fluid or what. But anyway, thanks for coming in and saying next to nothing. Let's see. What can I tell you? Ooh, where is it? Here it is. So I bought something. This is the Booms brand De-Hooker-Ma-Thinger. I did not expect it to be this big. So, about 9.5 inches long, which is probably what it said, but I don't visualize size very much, because that's, I'm just saying. If that was my man part, I'd be a happy man. Well, I mean, maybe some girth, but and we're not going to go. What is monetized? Well, Swiki, that is when people like you have the fine opportunity of becoming a member of the channel and paying me every month for the honor of, yeah. Or you could send super chats, and that just gives YouTube either 30% or a third, I forget, of the money, but gives the rest to me, and that's just money. I love money. Everybody loves money. Uncle Don would like a English is my first language. You just wouldn't know it from listening to me. But Uncle Don said a three-way rig. So here's my three-way swivels. The Purdy. Oh, I love Purdy. So there are two types of three-way swivels that I've seen. There's this type that is literally three, and the other that looks like it's just a normal crane swivel or barrel swivel, and then another swivel that comes off like so, that kind of can spin around. So I don't have any of those. I've got these kind. So you want to find two of these three legs are going to pretty much go straight, and the others are not going to quite go straight. So you find the two that go closest to straight. We identify those. Okay. And for a English is in fact my primary language. So for a three-way rig, typically what we're going to do. Ooh, look, I still have a knot at the end of this. You're going to use 2 or 3 different weights of line. So typically for catfishing or any kind of toothy fish, or anything that's got sharp gill plates, you're going to want to use a heavier hook leader than your main line. So in this case, I'm going to do a 20-40-60 split. Okay. So my 60-pound line, we're going to go ahead and slap on a hook. And this will just be another one of those egg loop knots or a no knot snell, whatever makes you happy. Or, you know, I mean, you can use whatever knot you want. I strongly believe in the strength of the no knot snell, and the egg loop knot is pretty much the same strength, except that it doesn't come loose. And they are almost, if not as strong as the line itself, meaning that when you pull on the hook and you pull on the swivel, the line is as likely to break. And I did not hold all these parts in their right spot. That's okay. It's just for demonstration, and it actually did cinch up right. So there's my egg loop knot. Yay! So this is your leader for your hook. And we'll cut off part of the tag end off of here. Says me. Just have to grab it and cut it. Hey, Mary, we all love fishing. Glad to have you in here. Glad to have you in here. So we find, again, so these two pretty much go opposite of each other. So I will tie on the dropper, or the leader with the hook on it, on here. And again, I'm going to use a trilene knot because I have found that they are also nice, strong knots to be tying to swivels and such. Run it through both of those loops. Kiss the knot because, you know, why not? It's after midnight. We're allowed to kiss knots. Use my rig puller and like so. Hey, Mary, my favorite kind of fish to catch. Almost any of them. Mary, I'm outside of Memphis, Tennessee, in the United States. I love catching saltwater fish. I have not caught the fish I love to catch the most. Because there's always going to be something out there that is as or more exciting. Okay, so there's my 60-pound leader. And then I will cut off some 20-pound. I'd probably use 30-pound actually on this. But I don't have any 30-pound, so I'll show you what 20-pound. This is going to be for the sinker. In this case, just use a oh, why can't I think of the name of the loop? Not surgeon's loop. So the purpose of the surgeon's loop is going to be that we're going to take our sinker. If it's got one of these ends on it, those little loops on it. So you put the loop through there and you put the sinker through the loop, and that gives you a cow hitch knot. So the important thing here is, so we go back and we figure out again which one is our one that's going to be close to straight. That's this one. So we put it on the one that's not going to be straight. So your hook is going to be straight down as far as the swivel is concerned. And then the other side of the straight end is going to go to your main line. So again, put a little trailing knot here. I could put anything on here because this is supposed to be a breakaway style rig. And I'll show you how that all works. If I can get this knot tied. There we go. Are my fingers going to have the dexterity? There, look at that. Look at that. Okay, so there's a couple of important things here. One is nobody loves long tag ends. I'm sure there is somewhere, but not. So we want the leader for the hook to be shorter than the leader to the sinker. So that allows this to flop around and do what it wants. Now, if your sinker is shorter, then your sinker is going to sit on the ground, on the bottom, and then so is your bait, right? Yes, you're 11. Well, hello, Mary. Bass are, I used to bass fish sort of competitively. I mean, I was in a competition. I didn't really do very well. You got a huge gar 2 days ago. That was kind of funny. When I was in Florida on spring break, I landed 2 gar, hooked 2 more. And I was shocked because I didn't realize that in saltwater I had to worry about gar. But where I was in the Intracoastal Waterway. So you've got the Gulf, you got Barrier Islands, you've got the Intracoastal Waterway. Then you've got bays above that, and then rivers that run into the bays. Well, the rivers that run in are freshwater. Of course, the Gulf is saltwater. And so that does create a brackish scenario, although I would have thought it was way more brackish than it was. But I think the amount of rain, because we got there just after or during actually the last big storm down there, which was not like a hurricane or anything, just, but there was a lot of rain, so it washed down a lot of fresh water, which probably did desalinate the water where I was some. I still didn't expect to catch gar. But anyway, okay, so this, again, your hook is going to be on a shorter leader than your sinker. Your sinker is going to be a lighter line because if something gets snagged up, it's going to be the sinker usually. And you would rather break that off and get your three-way swivel and your hook back than break off on your main line. So on this, again, 60 pound, 20 pound, it would actually go to 30 here. And then for your main line going to your reel, that's where I'd use 40 pound in this specific scenario. So, we tie a knot here, and that would be the entire rig, right? So we want, as we're casting and stuff, we want everything to be, actually it's more when you're pulling in the fish, right? Because your fish is going to be way heavier than the weight. So you want that straight line to be in place there. And if I cockeye that knot a little bit more, that'll do what I want. So you want that straight pulling power instead of like here where it's not as straight. So that's a three-way rig. And I did use a 1 ounce pyramid sinker. One, you wouldn't use a pyramid sinker typically in this kind of rig. And two, you're probably going to use heavier than a 1 ounce sinker. But the nice thing about these cow hitch knots is you can push it through and undo it and put a different weight sinker on there. And if you have a problem pulling those cow hitch knots out, what you can do is tie a little bitty loop at the end, like so. So then what you do is you run the end through just like you normally would, go past that first little knot that you have that creates this little loop. And then in the bigger portion of the loop, put your sinker through like that. And then when you want to undo the knot, you pull on your little loop. And then you can pull it off easier. So that is, like I said, that's going to be your three-way rig. Thanks for asking for that, Don. I need to get my sinker out of there. So let me just run that back through there. And I can pull it all off. Yeah, those huge gar are interesting. I don't know about your experience, Mary. So I don't normally catch a lot of gar. I caught one on the Mississippi a while back on jug line. And of course, by the time I got back to him, because I went and did other things, came back and checked him, he was like, look, man, I'm done. Just come on. I'm not going to fight you. But the ones in saltwater, they were spotted gar. They fought really well, which gar typically do. But once he came up on the dock, he just kind of laid there. He didn't thrash around. He didn't, snarl at me or, try to scare me with his teeth. Or, I mean, they really don't try to do that. Humans, they don't know that we're scared of their teeth. But in any case, folks, I got 8 of you in here watching. I got 9 thumbs up. If you don't mind double tapping the screen, I would appreciate it. It will make you a better person, or it'll make me happy. One of the two. Well, Uncle Don, how do you do yours differently? Do you use the different type of swivel, or do you not use the what's different? like I said, the pyramid sinker is not the right sinker for that. The pyramid sinkers, I'll explain it to everybody because I think they're interesting. So here, use this. So we'll call this the bottom of the ocean or whatever. So let me start off with, I didn't go fishing in the ocean until a couple of years ago, well, the Gulf. And I hadn't been to the ocean since I was a kid. So I always thought that the ocean was kind of like lakes. So most of your lakes, you know, you've got the bank and then it kind of goes down at a fairly steep angle. Sometimes it's not that steep, but still you have a pretty good angle there. And then the most traditional type of pond is going to be nothing but a big bowl, right? And it comes down and the deepest part's in the center. Of course, I haven't gone to the center of the ocean, but anyway, with the ocean, it has a very, very, very slight angle. So, you know, you'll go out, you can be 30 feet away from shore and not be over your head. Of course, it depends on the bank, right? I mean, it depends on the area. And they have sandbars. So you have, it comes down, and then you have that first sandbar. It goes over, and then another sandbar, and so on. And you can tell where the sandbars are because that's where your waves start really cresting over, right? So you got the wave that comes in, and then as it hits the sandbar, and the sandbar is not necessarily visible, right? It's underwater, but you've got a hump. So the bottom of that wave slows, and the top folds over. So that's where you know where your sandbars are. Anyway, so the Gulf is, and as far as I know, everything in the ocean, if it has a sandy beach, is probably sandy there as well, unless they trucked it in from somewhere. So what the pyramid sinkers do, you cast them out. Well, you've got waves coming in, right? So if it were pointing this way, can't even hold on the sinker, then the current would catch this end of it and kind of push it in. Or if you have a roll one, yeah, you reverse the hook and the sinker tie points. That's fair. Yeah, I try to keep them. I figure you're going to have the most pull with the when you've got a fish on there as opposed to the lead, right? That's why I do that. So anyway, so when you cast out your rig from the bank, so you're casting out into the ocean, this is going to come down, and who knows how it's going to land, right? But then as you pull the line tight, it's going to come this way. So this is going to just kind of dig into the sand, and then the water is the current's just going to kind of go over the top of it, because at this point you got this part's dug in a little bit, so the angle of it's changed, so it's kind of almost flat on the bottom as far as the top part of it goes. It's really cool. And they also make Sputnik sinkers, which are kind of like bank sinker shaped, sort of. And then they got wires that come off of them, and the wires are what dig into the sand. So it doesn't dig into the point that you can't pull it out, but it does help keep your sinker from just getting, let's say you used a round sinker like this. So the current's just going to just keep rolling it in every time another wave comes through. So that is the purpose of pyramid sinkers, is using where current is going to try to push the lead and the bait back towards you. And I guess if you were fishing on a wind-blown point or whatever, and you were casting into the wind, then maybe these might work. But typically you're going to have rocks and sticks and stumps and everything in fresh water. So anyway, that was that. And Don, I could be doing it wrong. It may be that you're supposed to have the lead straight down. I think there's actually, I don't, it's not that I think, it's that I know. through testing that I've done. There's a lot of old wives' tales or urban legends or information that has just been passed down, and we all assumed it to be factual. My best example is the Palomar knot is 100% knot, or 110% knot, or 500%. So the knot is stronger than the line. It's not. Now, if I'm using 20-pound mono and I tie a Palomar knot, then yes, it's possible that, and actually more than possible, it's probable that the knot will not break before 20 pounds. But this line's going to break at about 28, 29 pounds. So if it breaks at 24 pounds, it's not 100% strength of the knot. If it breaks at the knot at all, then it is not 100% knot, right? And the Palomar knot is, I would say at least 9 times out of 10, going to break at the knot. And I have tried. I thought, I know, I geek out on this crap. I'm sorry, but like I thought for sure that the no knot Snell was going to be a junk knot. I mean, there's no knot. How is this not going to be just a dumb knot? Yeah, it's easy to tie, extremely easy to tie. But I didn't think it would have the strength. I tried a uni knot, a uni Snell. I tried a bunch of other kinds of knots. Let me see. And I was amazed that no knot Snell, at least 5 times out of 10, if not way more, the line is going to break before the knot. And I mean, not even near the knot. I mean, like, this far away from the knot. Whereas everything else is going to break at or inside the knot. Anyway, and just for funsies, so like, let me see if I can remember how these knots go. There was one that, you kind of, you go in and you come back out the same way. So you've got a loop down at the bottom, and then you wrap around and you don't go back. I don't remember. Anyway, there's one where there's like a loop at the bottom that you shove the line in, and they aren't that strong. And I'll even quickly demonstrate. So we'll do no knot Snell. Let's go around it, I don't know, 6, 7 times, right? That's it. You watch me tie it. Nothing there. Nothing. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to put a swivel on here and then use a rig puller on the other end of the swivel. The reason being that should capture the hook and keep it from flying away. So here we are, right? Ugh. £40 mono, and I am apparently a 300-pound weakling. But what do we see here? We see the knot and we see the line. It did not break at the knot. Now, that was fun. You know what was really fun? Struggling like a little girl. So we're going to do 20-pound mono this time, so I don't look like such a sissy. And of course, you don't want to do this with a circle hook. We all know that. So Palomar knot. Palomar knot, you double line over, run it through, tie an overhand knot with the whole doubled over line, and then put the hook through there. Pull it tight. I'll leave a decent sized tag end, so our tag end is not what breaks. And once again, wrap this around my rig, my puller thingamajigger, and slap my swivel on there. And I'm only using lighter mono because I don't want to look like a sissy. Here we go. Right? Well, that's one way. And we'll take the swivel off here. You look at it, you go, oh, but Mike, there's the line off of it, so it didn't break there. That's the tag end. There's the standing end. And so I'll grab a hold of it with pliers. You can see it comes right off. So there is a perfect example. Palomar knot, broke at the knot. The no knot snell, broke at the line way up from the knot. Again, an amazing knot. I cannot stress how dumbfounded I was by the strength of that knot. And I'll pull off some 60-pound and I'll show you why. And I've gone over this in one of my knot tying videos and probably titled something like why the Palomar or why the no knot snell is so strong. But anyway, so we'll do this again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and when to grow on or whatever, right? So I'll pull it tight and I'll just grab another hook over here. Hopefully there it's not touching anything. So the thing that we need to understand, so you've got, when a hook is formed, it's a single piece of wire, goes around and then it comes around here. So this spot, there's a little gap here. And depending on the hook, it's going to be bigger or smaller. Now there are welded eye hooks, but they're very expensive and none of us use them. So you want to stay away from that. So when you put your line through, and you start wrapping, you want to wrap on the solid side. Let's see, the part with the gap is down there at the bottom, so we're going over the top. We don't want to wrap there we go. We don't want to wrap so that we're going up in there, because that is going to create a weak point. So I've shown that. So what you have is the tag end of the knot. As it comes through up at the top here, it kind of sits in that gap. It actually sits on the other side of the gap, but if you pull it tight enough, it'll scoot down that gap, because whatever's in the center of that hook, again, as you pull down from the center, it's going to want to find that gap. Okay. So back we go. So that fills that gap. That's the tag end. So basically none of the twisting is done. The tag end is the start of that twisting. So that acts as a buffer. And because you're wrapping around the shank of the hook, when you come back through, you sit on top of that buffer right here. See, there's your buffer, the tag end piece. And then the standing end is above it. So it's protected from getting in that groove. Okay. because it comes from the side, it's also not coming straight up into that groove or straight up into the hook. So it's not going to ever try to get in that groove because it's going to come around the solid side of the hook of that bend. So solid, this is all solid piece right here. Again, the brake is on the bottom. So it comes around there, it comes through here. It's never going to try to get in that crack. It can't. Then, as you pull on the knot, you've got all these coils that kind of act as a little bit of a spring, right? I think you can see move just a little bit. They compress a little bit, not a lot, but it gives you, so as you do those hard, fast pulls that a fish will do, you've got some give there. Also, the way to make a weak spot in the line is the tighter the bend, the weaker it's going to be. And that's because the outside edge is taking all the force, right? So as you pull on it kind of like on a curve on the road. If two cars are going the same speed and they come up to a curve, so it curves to the right, actually I did that wrong. It curves to the right, the car on the inside or the left, either way, the one on the inside lane, the inside of that curve is going to pass the one or go faster, further, whatever, than the one that's outside. That's just how things work. So here, the inside part of that line, of that bend, it's not doing anything. There's no stress really being put on it. All the stress is coming on the outside. So because you're not putting all the stress at the same spot, the stress is not evenly distributed here, it's going to break faster. So that's what creates, so because we're going around the hook and we have the tag end under there as well, that adds to the circumference. So instead of being effectively folded over on itself, you've got a bigger area here to help distribute the load better, which I think is incredibly interesting. And it wasn't until I found out that the knot was strong by testing it that I started going back and kind of trying to reverse engineer and figure out why. The other thing that you have is because the standing end goes from the bottom coil around and up, as you tighten that, it's going to tighten up just a little bit and allow it to kind of overlap a little more. And it just, again, it's so ridiculously easy to tie that if you had told me that it was going to be as strong as it is, I would have laughed at you. I really, so we have a lot of preconceived notions as we go into fishing. Things we've heard, things we've, I don't know, things we think seem logical. So that's why I've been doing a lot of testing. I want to test the logic, right? Does it work that way? I guess kind of like Mythbusters for fishing, but I do not put myself anywhere near that category of intelligence or science or anything else. Anyway, I did show you I started to show you this, the Booms fishing dehooker. So what I like about this, so you can, of course, run down the hook, run down the line like this, and as the fish comes up, you can tilt this, and of course, the weight of the fish is going to put it on this end, and basically what it does is it's going to allow the fish to fall off without touching it, which is good for bait. Now, this is too big for bait fish unless you're using really cool bait. The other thing is it has the push point. So if you want to get down and kind of push like a J-hook out to unhook it so that you can pull out. Again, this is bigger than I was expecting. I should have, pulled out a ruler and I would have figured it out real quick. Hey, Todd Projects. How you doing? How you doing? Good to see you. This was like 12, 13, 14, I don't know, something like that, bucks on Amazon. I have some smaller ones. The problem is the smaller ones are a lot smaller, and they're great for bait fish, but this would be good for unhooking catfish or unhooking redfish or black drum or good luck with gar in anything you do. But I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be scared to stick this in a gar's mouth. These, not so much. Know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. You know. So anyway, again, a little bigger than I thought it was going to be, but I think it's going to hold up really well. Real happy about that. I showed you my rig puller already. This is a, I don't know, another 13, 14 buck kind of thing. I like it because it screws together. It's hollow, so you can look at people like this and they'll think you're an idiot, especially if you're doing it live on YouTube. It's got this shrink wrap around it that I have used a lot with braid and everything. So you can see it's got some indentions and some abrasion, but nothing has cut through it. And it comes in, now you got two pieces. So you can do it that way. Hey, Garner, Gamer honey. There we go. Sorry. I'm old. I can't see very well. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Oh, you had some crappie? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, Todd, unfortunately, I know that feeling all too well. Wednesday night, I couldn't get to sleep. Then when I laid in bed trying, and then the storms came through, the lightning and the thunder. There was no way I was going to sleep through that. So I just got up and watched YouTube for an hour or so. Then went back to bed and went into work with 2 hours of sleep under my belt, which is not good for me. I also like these little rig pullers. So they can, they can fit in one end of the swivel. I can get out there. So like so, and then you can go down and you can grab your hook in the bend of the hook, I promise, and pull like so. And anyway, I like these little guys. I got these in a 3 or 4 pack, 5 pack, I don't know, for Amazon. $7 or $8 for 3 or 4 of them. I do have 2 different styles. And I prefer this style over this style. Now they look the same, right? But you can see the hook has a drastically more compressed angle on one than the other. And I like the ones with the compressed angle better. I feel like it gets a better, not better grip, but it's not going to come off as easy. Whereas this one, and I know from where you're looking, where you're sitting, it looked the same. And I understand that, but I do prefer the orange style to the green style. Not that the color is the style, but the hook shape. Cindy, I have not seen any remarkable deals on anything. Although I have a video coming up on this. I schedule my videos in advance so that when I don't have anything useful to do, or don't have time or whatever, I got something up there. So let me find them. That's not them. That's not them. That's not them. Come on, Mike, you're an idiot, but you're not this big of an idiot. I am this big of an idiot. Okay. Nope, that's not them either. Yeah. So I got these both in from Amazon today. So the mustads are size 6. Keep that. Remember that. I'm sorry, not size 1. The Dr. Fish are size 6. The 100 pack of the Dr. Fish came out to $6.49 plus tax. The 50 pack of the Mustad Demon Inline Perfect Circle hooks came out to I want to say $8.99. So they were bet 18 cents a hook. These are about 6.5 cents a hook. And I got the size 6 because I wanted to use them on my sabiki rigs, because circle hooks, you know. But boy, was I surprised when this is a size 6. No, this is a size 1. And this is a size 6. And the size 6 will barely fit inside the size 1. This is not a size 6 hook, folks. This is, I would say this is accurate at the size 1. So this, usually the less expensive hooks like these Dr. Fish, they're smaller than what they're advertised as. That's honking big for a 6, right? Anyway, I tell you all this not because I necessarily think it's a great deal, but I'm kind of impressed. The Dr. Fish size 6 hooks, so they have that like Kale style bend to them, whereas the Demon Perfect circles have a more just circle shape. The ones that have that Kale bend down here actually seem to perform better in strength tests, because the hook that I pull with it just sits in that little notch real well, even though it's a round hook that I pull with, not this, but it sits in that little notch, and they perform very well. I would say that the Dr. Fish like outperformed the Mustad, and the Mustad is 18 cents a pop versus 6.5 cents a pop. And they're both very sharp. But no, I mean, there were some good deals on like Tide laundry detergent and stuff like that, but I don't feel like that's fishing adjacent enough to put it up there. Yeah. You don't like the hook up on this? End up cutting them off and replacing them with hooking hook. Okay, so I just want to make sure we're on the same page. They're not, it's still a circle hook. If I can get my grubby little fingers in here. So it still has all the aspects of circle hook. The tip does bend inward right here. It's just the way it's bent down here at the bottom. That's where I'm talking about the Kale style. Kind of a Kale bend, but it is a circle hook. It does, in fact, have the point that turns in like so. But yeah, Kale style hooks by themselves, I tend to agree with you on. I think it's easier to gut hook a fish with a Kale style hook. Trying to see if I've got anything that's bigger that I kind of show what I'm talking about. Yeah, not much bigger, but it's a size 1/0. These Mutu Light circle hooks do the same thing, or a similar thing. So again, instead of just being round at the bottom, it kind of does that Kale style, but it does have the hook point that points in. And interesting, if I remember correctly, and I can be wrong on this and lots of things, and I'm really good at being wrong. I believe that the Kale style hook was designed to not gut hook as much, if I remember. Yeah, it can. Oh, Todd, there is no question. Gamakatsu makes fabulous hooks. Absolutely wonderful hooks. How do I say this politely? When I was bass fishing, If I was fishing for fun, I'd use cheap hooks. If I was fishing in a tournament, Gamakatsus. Because, and there were other hooks I liked as well, like the Owner, I think it was Owner, X-Point hooks. They were Owner or Daihachi or one of the bigger brands. They were good hooks. Daiichi, of course, makes good hooks. Mustad has kind of a value line and kind of a more upscale line. Owner hooks are pretty good, actually really good. But yeah, Gamakatsu or yeah. Yeah, the thin wire perk circles, the inline demons or the offset. Those Mutu lights, I like those. I also have like the perfect circles because they're inline hooks, because your inline hooks are not gonna gut hook as much as an offset point hook will. It's better for the fish. Now, how big of an issue is that? That's another thing. Offset by hands. Okay. So in some states, and especially for saltwater, certain species you can't catch. You can't catch. That's what doesn't make any sense. So if I can fish with an offset hook for a pompano, but I can't do it for, and I'm making this up, I don't know if it's true for mangrove snapper or not, but I can't do it for mangrove snapper, they're going to hit the same baits. I can't control that. So either make them only inlines or allow them all. I don't care which. Like sharks, you can't use offset hooks. Okay, fine. Do you know what I caught the shark that I caught on? Pompano rig. And it was actually a pompano rig designed for pompano with all the little the little beads and the floats and everything. I mean, it was a true pompano rig. But I hooked a shark on it. I can't help that. Yeah, Don. The target fish, right? But I mean, if we're using live bait or cut bait, we can target anything we want. We can't control what bites, right? And that's why tonight I was using 4/0 hooks for my Mortician rigs, is because the strength of the hook is not, it's not like a 3X strong or anything. It's big enough that I can put a decent bait on there, and small enough that it's going to fit in any channel catfish's mouth that I would even pretend to want to catch, right? But yeah, bigger bait, you need a bigger hook because you need, all that good stuff. And the strength of the hook, of course, your light wires versus your extra strong hooks. If I'm going to go fishing in the Mississippi for giants, then I'm not going to be using a 4/0 hook. I don't have any 3/0s and kind of felt like 2/0 was a little small, even for channel cats. Like at the gathering last year, I caught a bass on cut bait. Didn't intend to, it just happened. Hey, clangers. Thanks for coming in. We're just, was tying rigs. Now I'm just shooting the crap with anybody that wants to shoot. Talking about fishing mostly, but we can bring in other topics as long as we keep it away from politics and religion and misogyny and incest and garbage like that, right? Try to keep it somewhat family friendly. Now, I will say something I thought was interesting. So, I believe that you can say words like Trump without it being political. I'm not telling you how I believe. I'm not telling you what to believe. But we could talk about things that actually are happening. one being the tariffs. China, and I don't remember the percentage, but so, Trump has said he's going to enact more tariffs to China. China came back and said they're going to do a retaliatory tariff of, I want to say 30%-ish. I thought, you know what? This could be in a very interesting whizzing match where Trump says, okay, well, if you're going to raise your tariffs by 30%, we're going to raise yours by 60%. And then we can just go back and forth until basically you can't buy anything from China here and they can't buy anything from the U.S. there. And that should do something to something. Hey, Gigability, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in. If you think I'm going to say something intelligent, I don't know how to help you, my friend. Yeah, Todd, that's, I tied into a channel catfish on my ultralight. And it was probably about a 3-pound channel cat on 4-pound line. And as stupidity would have it, I was on the front of my boat on the trolling motor. And I could not remember if the trolling motor was on or off. Because if it was on, it wasn't moving much. But he was coming up towards the trolling motor, so I power for the trolling motor. And turns out I think it was off and it turned on. And bye-bye, channel cat. But, yeah. And there's also the discussion of the fight with the fish, right? Let's go fishing with 4-pound test line for 20-pound fish because, that shows the skill. If you can get a 20-pound fish on a 4-pound test, well, you the man. Right. I'll give you that. The problem is that the way that works is you are going to have to play that fish for a long time. That fish is going to be exhausted when you actually get it in, if you get it in. And if you don't get it in, God knows how many feet, yards, or whatever of line are going to be attached to the hook that is still stuck in that guy's mouth. So while I'm not saying use a 100-pound test to fish for guppies, I think some of these challenges that we do for the sake of challenging ourselves or others are not good for the sport. Again, I'm not saying that it's like just severely overpower the fish, but size your tackle appropriately, please. Because what happens is, that mono gets stuck somewhere on some structure and the fish sometimes can't get free from the hook, and that's the end of the fish. They get stuck on something down there that they can't get out of. Granted, with 4-pound test, it's probably going to break it again, but you get my point. Let's see, what other fun things can I talk about? So I am interested. So I think I talk about using suffix mono a lot, the suffix superior. Not supreme, it's just superior. But it's a monofilament. And suffix is made by Rapala or Rapala. I didn't know that when I started buying it. I bought it because it was fairly inexpensive for what it is. But I've got some 20-pound and 30-pound coming that is their copolymer, which is a mixture of mono and fluorocarbon. I'm interested to see how it works. If it's going to be stronger, if it's going to be, have stronger knots, that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of curious. Billy, what are you doing up this early, my friend? Or late, as case may be. And for those of you who have not had the privilege, so somewhere around Pensacola, maybe not Pensacola, but that's where I keep seeing all the memes from. This kid named Gage is out fishing. And apparently, earlier that morning, he and another boat were out there. Gage says he had his lights on. The other boat apparently did not have their navigation lights on. They were both kind of under the bridge fishing. Well, this guy comes barreling through on his boat, and the boat that didn't have the navigation lights on apparently yelled lots of cuss words at the guy. And the Gage kid says that he, kind of said, slow the F down or something like that. Sitting down to a sardine sandwich. Just got done with work. Okay. So the guy comes back. He's got 3 other guys in the boat. I mean, he comes back through there later when it's light. Gage is fishing, doing his thing. And this guy basically rips into the kid verbally for cussing him out, being stupid. If you didn't have your lights on, I could run over you and kill you, and you're dead and nothing happens to me, and all kinds of stuff. And he pulls his boat over and gets on the kid's boat, steps off onto the kid's boat, and the kid's trying to get away from him. So he's moving the boat away from the other boat because there's 3 more guys on that boat. And dude is like super aggressive with him and cussing at him. And, me and my buddies we're all Army Rangers. We're scared of you trying to start a fight and all this kind of shit. And the kid's like, bro, I am just a kid. Back up. Leave me alone. Just back up. I'm sorry. Back up. It wasn't me. It was the other guy. But I'm sorry. I told you to slow the F down because you shouldn't have come through there at full speed. You shouldn't have come through there at full speed. Better than that. People fish here. So he finally drives the guy, puts his boat back so the guy can get on his own boat. Turns out this guy is a captain of a charter. Oh boy. So his charter company is officially, it may not be out of business, but basically everybody who's seen the video has canceled their trips with him. Habanero sardines. Ugh. I mean, that could be bait, I guess. So yeah, I mean, the good thing was that the kid was wearing his camera and was, fishing on camera. So this guy made a complete ass out of himself. And people are talking about, boarding somebody else's ship is piracy and all kinds of, but it's been an interesting show to watch. But that is how to get your charter business effectively put out of business. Oh, so be careful out there. And I'm somewhat of a hothead. I used to be much more of a hothead in my younger days. I'm glad it was before everybody had cameras everywhere. Because I've done some things I'm not proud of that I'm sure glad are not on the internet. Just like, whew. Let's see, what we talk about. Apparently Trump thinks that maybe he can run for a 3rd or 4th term. I loved the interview where he's like, yeah, I'm not saying I won't run for a 3rd. Well, technically a 4th because, the 2020 election was stolen. So this is really my 3rd term. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know what to do with that, man. I'm not sure. I'm just hoping that when 2028 rolls around, that both parties come up with an electable candidate. I mean, the 2024 election was horrible. It was freaking horrible. Hey, Wabash Nate. I mean, the Democrats stood behind Biden until he basically made so many missteps that it was hard to even look at him as a a viable candidate, and then just threw in the VP as the de facto candidate at the last minute, and that was not good. Because I mean, the way the office works, right, is you run for your first term, you run for your second term. If you win the second term, then you start kind of pushing your VP more into the limelight, because the VP is the successor by default usually. And there's still a primary, but it's rare that the VP does not become the next candidate, right? Well, Biden was always expecting to run for that second term, so Harris was always, in the shadows. So making her the de facto candidate, I don't think was the greatest move on their part. I've not been excited about an election in a long, long time. I feel like we've had to choose between the lesser of two evils. And, when I said no politics, and here I am running my mouth about the politics. My bad. I'm sorry. I think both parties should be able to come up with much better candidates than we've seen. If the two people running were truly the best that the country has to offer, we are screwed. Even if you liked one of them and think one of them was the best, second best was really bad. I don't care which side you're on that one. Doesn't matter. The two parties have gone so far in their respective ends of the earth that the middle is just ticked off, but the far ends are the loud ones. Well, Bosh, I'm doing great. Gig, I don't know when I'm going back. If I had a friend that lived near the beach that would let me stay with them for a few weeks or more, I would definitely go down and do that. And, because I work remotely, and I could probably get away with being gone for a month. But it's my fiance's dad's place, and they go down there usually once, twice a month themselves. They don't live near me. They live way down in South Florida or South Louisiana. So it's not like I could hitch a ride with them. And she does not work. My fiance does not work from home. So plus she has two kids in school, and it so while I have a lot of freedom that she doesn't, I guess is where I'm going with that. But there is something I've been wanting to say to everybody, and this is the wrong place to do it because there's so few people here. I do have 5 of you and 15 thumbs up, so I can't really complain about that. But if there was anybody that I know that needs to come through Memphis, is coming through Memphis or wants to come fish in Memphis for God knows what reason, I've got a spare room. Anybody's welcome to come in and stay. There are house rules like no smoking, no getting smashed, no drugs, stuff like that. No smoking in the house, I should say. Be a good guest. That's all I ask. Fishing is shot right now unless you go to ponds. So why is that, Nate? Is it because of all the storms and stuff? But I can see how that would mess up the river fishing. And we also modify the lake levels some. But yeah, it's frustrating. Memphis is a frustrating city to fish in, or area, right? So we've got the Mississippi River. And if you have never fished a river, the Mississippi is not the best place to start. It runs 6 miles an hour pretty much constantly. There are no dams down here. There's no, whatever current comes down, whatever water is released by dams way up from us is what comes down. The Mississippi is a gigantic artery of water. So what happens up north comes down to us at some point. So we can be in times when there's no water, not no water, but where the river can be down significantly. And we can have, of course, flood stages. So the Mississippi River is hard to fish just because of the current before you get to any of the other stuff that I just talked about. When I lived in Dallas, we had a lot of watersheds for drinking water and all that kind of stuff. So, there were 5 or 6 lakes, good sized lakes, within 30 minutes of my house. Hook the boat up and go to Louisville. You can go to Lake Lavon was probably the smallest of all of them. Lake Ray Hubbard, Lake Ray Roberts, Lake Louisville, go a little further, Lake Grapevine. I mean, we had it going on. But that was our drinking water supply as well, right? In Memphis, we've got the Mississippi that within the city of Memphis, anywhere in the city of Memphis on the Mississippi, you should not eat what you catch. We got tons of rain, reservoirs are dumping in the overflow. Yeah. So I got to go somewhere. Yeah. And even when you're at flood stage, I mean, that's, you got the levees that are built so that even if the river overflows, it's only going to, in theory, be able to flood this particular area. Well, what you do is people start building levees. So when you build those levees, then there's less place for the water to go. So the places that used to get flooded no longer are, which means that it's a game of cat and mouse with the water. So you build up one levee and now the previous levee before it is no longer useful because the one further down is bigger or upstream or whatever. Anyway, basically it's a game of who can screw the next town down the road. And then of course you've got the ones that have dams that, when water is in short supply, they're like, we're keeping our water. And then when it's not, when they are in flood stage, like, we open this mofo up. Y'all get all the water. We don't care about you. We care about us. And then we've got a few little, they call them rivers. I'd call them glorified creeks, around Memphis, but we don't have any big lakes. Most of the lakes are private so that people can have, so builders can buy up the land around the lake, build houses on it. And so they're not fishable to the general public, not accessible to the general public. The parks in the city of Memphis, the city by acreage is huge. Not necessarily by population, but most cities are not that big. The greater metroplex area is, but not the main city. Memphis is very large, and in the city parks you can't fish unless it's posted that you can fish. And I don't know of any that are posted that you can fish other than Shelby Farms, which is, I don't know if it's technically in Memphis or not, but they have several lakes down there, but there's not enough water to sustain the fish necessary for the number of people who fish, if that makes sense. So, talking about me, Billy, honestly, it's like fishing the Gulf. I've gone out on the river a few times. So one is because of how much it fluctuates. The last time I went and fished, fortunately I went to bank fish, the ramp was out of the water. And that happens a lot. There's a lot of crime in this area. Memphis is I think #1 violent crime, or I don't know. It's way up there. People break into cars all the time looking for guns, drugs, whatever. Guns, drugs, and money, actually. It used to be, you couldn't leave your computer in the car because somebody break in. Now they'll leave the damn computer. They don't care about that anymore. They want the guns, the drugs, and the money. And so it's hard to find a place to launch a boat that you feel safe leaving your vehicle at. And then, as far as me saying it's like fishing the Gulf, it's one of those things where you complain about small ponds because there's not that much place to fish. You get on the Mississippi, it's like, where do you even freaking start? I mean, I had the problem in Dallas where I'd get on one of these lakes. I'm like, well, let me drive around. Oh, well, it's getting hot. Let me go cool off by riding around some more. And yeah, I made a good bass fisherman. But how do you eliminate water when there's so much? And then, of course, trying to anchor up in the main river itself could be deadly. And spot lock is useless because my boat, my 80-pound Terova on my boat will run at about 2 miles an hour in calm water. Well, so if I can go 2 miles an hour this way and the water going 6 miles an hour that way, yeah, it ain't spot locking me anywhere. I can slow it down, and that's about it. And I've even tried to anchor a couple of times that, you pull up in front of where you want to anchor. By the time I can get to the anchor, I've already got so far down the river. I'm not where I wanted to anchor. Comedy of errors, let me tell you. Now, what I did find very interesting and shocking, literally, well, maybe not literally, because then I actually have gotten shocked, but the muddy Mississippi River, and aptly named because the water is muddy as all get out. The bottom is sand. I wouldn't have believed it, except that I took video of when the river was down way low, and the places I used to fish that were in like 5 feet of water were now out of water. Okay, maybe there was more than 5 feet, but anyway, for 100+ yards of nothing but sand. I mean, I knew about the sandbars, little sandbar islands and stuff in there, but it just never clicked that that's what the bottom is made of. Not completely, but you get the general idea. You're holding water back up there. It'll still be low when the ice is off. That's. I wonder if south of the equator, if rivers run towards the equator, or if everything just keeps running south. Because everything, all the rivers run south here, except for when they go north. Well, hello, handsome. Hey, Dave. How you doing? Good to see you, buddy. How you doing, Dave? Yeah, it's weird to see. I don't know what I thought the bottom of the ocean was made out of, the bottom of the Gulf, but then I was surprised to go, oh wait, it's sand. I don't know why. I cannot. I don't know what I thought it was made out of. The Earth's crust, I guess. I don't know. Man, it's sandy beach, right? Well, sand keeps going, extends like, oh, huh. Sometimes I think I'm smart. Sometimes I think I'm an idiot. And not knowing that The ocean was on sand. Kind of makes me feel like an idiot. Oh, oh well. You live and you learn. I mean, just like I learned that I can catch gar in saltwater. That was so. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there were times down there where I'm going, I hate hardhead catfish and I don't want to catch any more hardhead catfish, but by God, I wish something like, I'll take anything. Give me a hardhead catfish. Give me a hardhead. There's something so nuts in there. Scott! Oh. Oh, what an amazing day. What an amazing everything. It's grass, sand, mud, and rocks. Here, yeah, scattered rocks. Yeah. Well, I mean, the grass doesn't count because grass and sand somehow should never mix, and they do. But yeah. I guess, seems logical that the sand came from rocks. Okay, Dave. It's not what I eat. It's the exercise that I avoid. Let me show you the one exercise that I avoid. Pushing away from the table. If you don't push away from the table, you just get to keep eating. The way that I've lost weight is low carb diets. So carbs are definitely a great way to build up weight. Not the right kind of weight, but still. Yeah. Load up on carbs. Chips and salsa are my downfall. Well, not the salsa so much as the chips. Corn tortillas, flour tortillas. My God, they're so high in carbs. Which doesn't make sense to me. It seems like if carbs are bad for you for the most part, then they should taste good. And they don't. Necessarily. I mean, flour. You ever eaten flour? It's not delicious. Now, you take some flour and you mix it in with some sausage drippings and stir it up, and then pour some milk in there and some salt and some pepper and stuff and some pieces of sausage and put it over biscuits. Now, that's delicious. But flour by itself? Anyway. Carbs are truly amazing. I like pizza. I like bread. I like pasta. Now, what I don't understand is tortillas are a big thing in Mexico. You don't see fat Mexicans. How do they do that? Rice is big in Asian countries. You don't see a lot of fat Asians. I mean, sumo wrestlers, but not that. But typically, like, how is that? How do they eat all these carbs and not get? What the hell? I'm thinking what it is that Little Debbie is American, and because Little Debbie is in the USA, that's it's her fault. Little Debbie makes some good stuff, though. She good people. She's not healthy people, but she's good people. Yeah, so yeah. It's funny, both my fiance and I have Garmin watches, and it estimates how many calories I burn a day just by doing nothing. And she's like, I ran 15 miles today and you burned more calories than I did. Yeah, life's not fair, honey. That poor girl, God bless her freaking heart. She runs further in a week than I drive. I mean, that's because many days a week I try not to even leave my house. Did you know that Walmart delivers groceries? I mean, they usually get the order wrong. Did you know that Amazon delivers a bunch of stuff? COVID got me into to just wait. I don't have to go to stores. Hot diggity dog. greasy fast food like KFC and McDonald's. See, and that's funny because at its core, it's chicken for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Chicken. Chicken is one of the leanest meats out there. Yeah. I mean, the battering and frying it in oil didn't help. Okay, that does not improve the healthiness of it by any stretch. Plus, KFC, I don't know if they cut a chicken in 97,000 parts, but when I go and get a skinless, boneless breast at Walmart, thing's bigger than my hand. You get a bone-in breast from KFC, and it's like this big. Like, where's the rest of this damn thing? What are y'all doing? Are these like chicks? Where are you getting these from, man? Chicken wings are the funny thing. When I was in high school, I worked at a fast food place that did chicken as well as burgers and stuff. And let me tell you, you couldn't give the dang wings away. You know, people pay more so they don't have to get wings. And then, I mean, this was after buffalo wings, I think, started becoming a thing, but still, now you take a wing, you cut that SOB into 2 pieces, and it's 2 wings now. So the bird has 4 wings now. 4. Because you cut each wing into 2 pieces and you sell them and you charge over $1 a piece per piece of a damn wing that still doesn't have any meat on it. Old-time cooking isn't what makes you fat, Gig. Old-time cooking with current-day laziness. Because back in the day, you know, these farmers' wives would spend literally most of the day in the kitchen. I lived down the road, and I swear, Mrs. Mayfield, God bless her, she, you know, we go get the chickens out of the chicken house, the hen house. She would get up and she would cook breakfast, and when breakfast was over and she's doing the dishes, she's already cooking lunch. The same goes for supper. And I mean, you know, a lot of the food they grew themselves, you know, usually he was the one digging up potatoes, but she was cleaning them and cooking them and canning stuff and all that kind of stuff. But people back then used to actually work, even when yeah. I am not married. I am engaged to the most amazing woman who could possibly ever put up with me. Yeah, the preservatives are definitely the preservatives and the yeah, stuff that makes food shelf stable for 3 lifetimes is definitely not good for us. It's amazing the things that the FDA allows to be put in food. But anyway, not my monkey, not my circus. And I'm going to do probably the worst brag ever. It's kind of a sad brag. So I just turned 55. I am officially the longest living person on one side of my family in 3 generations. Well, okay, so my dad's siblings, I'm not counting them. So my grandfather died when he was 49. My father died when he was 39. My brother died in his early 50s. Yeah, it blows my mind that I am that Because the way I lived my life is I was like, so his dad died at 49, he died at 39, so I'm gonna die by 29. So let me wreck this body while I can. No, but if I trust the wrong fart, something runs in my genes. Just saying. I don't even know why I said it was bad. That was horrible. And I'm stone cold sober. Yeah, see, John Parker gets up there and he passes gas all the time. I'm like waiting for him to go, y'all, I got to go for a while. I'll be back. Back away. Yeah. I used to think never trust a fart was a joke. Then I learned I should not trust certain farts. Like any of them. I'm sure people remember Xenical, I think was what it was called. I took that for a while. I think that was the name of it. The stuff that basically binded to oil and in the food, and yeah. Yeah. Yeah, some people blow. Billy, I can't do that. First off, I no longer, I do not have the guts to even try it, but I know what would happen. I would all down the front of me, hanging out of my nose. Yeah. I'm like, I gotta go. I'll be back. So, Dave, one of the things that I actually noticed, and you don't want to, you did not ask for this information, and it's your fault for being, let's face it, dumb enough to be in here this long and listen to anything I have to say. It's not a sign of intelligence. I can't help you, but thanks for being here. When I was on my keto diet, I noticed that my level of gas went down tremendously. I thought it was my CPAP that, I made the excuse of, well, it's blowing air into me, it's blowing some into my stomach, and so you wake up and as soon as you try to sit up, but yeah, it went to almost zero. Dave, I'm actually allergic to being on YouTube. It is amazing to me. I will be fine. I'll set up to do a video. I'll start recording a video, and I'll get about 30 seconds into it and have to sneeze. Get on the live stream, and this little mustache. I don't know how my mustache tickles my nose the way it does, but it does. It's true. See what I've done? Oh well. Yeah, and yes, definitely. It can be an allergy issue, but I'm just amazed at the people that didn't. I can blow giant holes in Kleenex and toilet paper trying to blow my nose, but the idea of going and being able to like project it and it go not on me, I don't know. I actually used to. I just had the goatee, and when I was single, some of my friends at the bar that were female that maybe I was interested in, we won't talk about that, said, "You really should grow out the mustache." So I did. And of course, it looks dokey because I got a scar right here, and as it turns out, hair doesn't grow on scars. I don't know, right? I believe that was from when I was a kid, lived on a farm. My brother had a mini bike. Well, this is not it. What's happening here? Y'all can't see it. I put on one of these rulers that has the adhesive back, and like the plastic on the front is trying to come off, but not. Oh, yeah. There we go. Maybe it's supposed to come off, and I just didn't know it. So my brother had a mini bike. and he was trying to crank it. It was when the pull start, and he couldn't get it to start. So he puts 5-year-old Mikey on it. Of course, he was like 8, so wasn't like he was. Anyway, he puts 5-year-old Mike on it. He's like, hold the gas. And what if it takes off? It won't. It won't. You'll be fine. So I'm holding the gas. He cranks it. Off I go. I can't reach the brake pedal, the handbrake, because I never thought, well, you could take your hand off the grip and just pull it back. And I let loose of the gas, but it didn't snap back because the spring was broken. And so I'm coming to the end of my gravel driveway, and I've got 2 choices. One is go across the road, which is a gravel road. I don't know if anything's coming. And then at the other side of it, there's a ditch followed by a big berm. So I don't think that's my best option. My other is to try to turn. Jumping off was not on my list for some reason. So I try to turn. I turn too sharp, and I eat gravel. So my face is bloodied. I am crying like a little mama's boy. Going back to the house, and my brother, God bless my brother, he's trying to block my mic, going, don't tell mom, don't tell mom. Because he's afraid he's going to get in trouble for allowing me to try to kill myself. I think that's where that came from. But I also remember as a kid, and anybody who has kids knows the miracle of Band-Aids. It doesn't matter if you're not bleeding or if there's not even no, that hurts. Oh, we'll put a Band-Aid on, it'll be fine. Mine was a wet wash rag. You put a wet wash rag on my face, and I'm fine. I would think, wait. Boy, I was a sissy boy. Oh, good night, Don. Hope you have a good rest. I need to get up in the morning so I can take Ashley's youngest to his band audition-y thingy. It's part of his schoolwork, because she's going to be out running in the mud. Well, running on a paved trail in rain and thunderstorms. So, anyway, I will ask a big favor of anybody who wants to do me a big favor. I am so close to 3,000 watch hours late. I'm hoping I'm over 2950 right now. I have a playlist of all of my live streams. If before you go to bed you were to just turn that on and let it play all night with the volume down and not actually watch it, I would not be upset. Because I'm trying to get to that 3,000. Of course, when I get to 3,000, then I'm going to want to get to 4,000. And then once I get to 4,000, I don't know what I'm going to do. Probably quit YouTube because, well, I did that. Anyway, it is time for me to call it an evening. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate everybody spending time with me. Appreciate the thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to me and you feel like you haven't made enough mistakes in your life, please feel free to subscribe. I don't always talk about gibberish in the middle of the night. Sometimes I talk about gibberish in the middle of the day. I am not on Instagram. What's the words I'm looking for? Too old. Yes. Yeah, I'm too old. I barely do Facebook. Well, actually, I more than barely do Facebook. I don't do anything else. I don't Snapchat and that kind of stuff. I'm just too damn old. Just not my cup of tea. And I'm not artistic. I don't take pictures of a lot of stuff. So live streaming is easiest for me because I don't have to edit anything. It just goes through and it's done. Any mistakes I make are gonna stay. So good for me. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Y'all have a wonderful night. I am blessed by each and every one of you. And we will see you the next time around. Have a good night, guys.